it's very simple. You have here आपकी अपनी FMCG company. FMCG is fast moving consumer goods. It will include like almost everything that you have at your house for like regular use, like a soap or some basic snacks. And this company particularly has two major products: ready-made snacks or the toiletries.
Okay.
So here we have, so it's present in a city of India. You can say any city, let's say Gurgaon only. And it has a presence in all the four quadrants: east, west, south, or north. So here is the graph of the sales of our company, Aapki Apni, the competitor, and the untapped region where no one has, approached the market yet. Okay, and these are the information about these particular quadrants. So in the east quadrant, as you can see, we hold the major market share, and the competitor holds a very small market share, and the untapped region is also very small. For the west quadrant, the competitor rules the market, and we hold a very small market share over there, and the untapped region is also very small. For the south quadrant, we have the highest untapped region, and both the companies are fighting fiercely. Similar for north, but the untapped region is very small. Any questions regarding this, or reading the graph or anything?
No, no question.
Okay, so now I'll be asking questions, and you have to take part in this because we are testing your business acumen. And if you go for any interview, they will also put you in this particular role or maybe some other role. So let's say you are the CEO of आपकी अपनी company for one day. What would you do? Just based on this data, in most of the interviews, you will be facing such a situation where they will say that you are a CEO, you are the CFO, or you are the manager of some particular product. How will you improve the sales? What will you do to improve the conditions of the company and everything? So based on this data, you are the CEO. There are no like no wrong answers. You can go ahead and tell me what would you do. If there are any particular questions you have to ask based on this data, you can ask me. I would like you to take part in this. Otherwise, I'll just show
I,
you a list of some sample questions, and it won't mean anything.
I would like to take this option basically. Ritesh, basis the graph which is available on the screen. Uh,
Yes.
First, foremost thing, first we'll try to understand the competitors, what they are doing. So if we clearly see that East, we have a very good uh, grip on the market, but
Yes.
comparatively West, we are lagging behind. So we'll try to understand in West region what competitors are doing differently that we are not able to capture that significant amount of portion of the market. That's one thing we'll try to understand, and simultaneously we'll try to see how we can capitalize the untapped market, which is significantly high in the south region. So we'll try to
Yes.
take
Correct.
that advantage of that south region before the competitors tap that untapped market. That's the
Correct.
first couple of things we'll try to understand. And same goes for north. We'll try to understand what is that customer is in need for exactly south and no, sorry, north and west. And basically we'll try to understand the requirement first, and whatever
Correct.
there is a possibility we'll try to understand that, and we'll try to do the two things if possible in the ongoing products, like the sets of products was mentioned, the snacks and the
Snacks and the
toiletries.
toiletries. Yeah.
Toiletries. So first step we'll try to, as I've mentioned, tap the untapped market from south region and try to
Hmm.
understand the competitors, and if possible, as soon as try to compete in that competitive areas. Then, if possible, try to launch new product or make some tweakings in the existing one so that we can compete in that market and increase our market share.
Okay. Yeah. Very good questions actually. And now I'll try to act as an interviewer, and I'll try to create situations for you. Okay. So
Okay.
let's say that for the west zone, the competitor, he has tied up with a lot of hotels and hotel chains. And if you know that, like if you go for a hotel visit, there will be a particular need of toiletries in the room. So they have
Okay.
played this card, and enhance their sales in that particular region because of the hotels and hotel chains, and they have a contract with most of the hotels, so we cannot disrupt their market over there. It's like a loyalty thing going on with the hotels and the competitor. For the south
Okay.
region, the untapped region, you can actually deploy some different strategies. You can go for the analysis for some emerging trends over there, or some discount strategies you can go, and you can work around it. The untapped region is not touched by our competitors as well, and there are some hotels over there as well. Any other thing? Like basically, you have to ask the questions only to, uh, reflect your business acumen. That yeah, I can handle this business at this point of time. If you throw some data at me, if you throw some problems at me, I can handle them, or at least I can, give you an approach to handle the situation. So
So
any other
basically,
questions? Yeah,
no, just a point. See,
yeah,
since you've mentioned that all the hotels are tapped by the competitors in the west region and specifically in north region. So probably we can actually see we cannot directly go and position our products with the hotels. That will end up wasting a lot of time. Rather than we can try to understand uh, the hotel's point of view and plus from the distributor point of view.
yes,
If we can push our products from the distributor channel, the supply chain, it
correct,
is usually
correct,
like if you
correct,
give them the good amount of margin on the products, just to take that advantage. So of course,
correct.
at the initial
Bas-
level, we might face some burns, but
So at the
if we are
initial level, you are offering some kind of discount.
yes to the distributor so that our product can get displayed across these hotels and we can actually try to take the pie from that competitor's market as a market share.
Correct. So discounts and offers are a great way to achieve the said number of sales, because everyone likes a discount. Like even if you're a millionaire, you will like a discounted price on some product that you want to get. And say you are getting toiletries, you can give two bottles for one's price, and like that offers can be rolled out to increase the sales. Very good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see a lot of answers coming from you, but I am curious, like, if there's any other person who would like to try, like, is there any understanding gap? I think Ritesh will be able to cover that, but I think more people will participate, to question Ritesh's, to answer Ritesh's question. So anyone else, like,
Okay, so I'll do one thing. I'll go ahead and show the example questions that I have over here, and I have underlined the key points in these questions that I find very useful. And at the end, when you are getting tested for a case study, uh, for business acumen, you can find the answers. It's not difficult. They'll give you some numbers. You'll crunch those numbers and you'll give the answers. But after those answers, they will ask you to ask questions. And those questions will tell the interviewer that, yeah, you have some business acumen or you don't have. And it will come with practice, or maybe you are born in a business family or anything. But yeah, it differs from person to person, and it will be decided based on the situation and the questions you ask.
So a sincere request to all the participants, please give it a try. Like Ritesh have mentioned, the questions are displayed on the screen. There is no right or wrong. It's just like
Yep, just
you
please
want,
go ahead and
yeah.
say anything. It's okay. So next task I have for you is, for the same company, you have to hire a salesman. And this is a very simple task. I am just trying to tell you that there can be a lot of graphs in your case studies for the interviews, and you should be able to read most of the graphs. And this is a particular kind of graph called radar graph, which during my interviews, a lot of my friends actually told me that yeah, we couldn't read these type of graphs. So I'm just showing this type of graph to you. We have two candidates over here, candidate A, candidate B, and we have five skills on which we are judging these two candidates: communication skill, market knowledge, negotiation, adaptability, and track record of sales. So tell me, which one would you like to hire, candidate A or candidate B, for our FMCG company? Anyone can say, like, Like anyone can say which candidate would you hire. I just need to know.
I see he has a better track record of sales.
Better track record of sales. Okay.
I would like to try
Market knowledge.
an answer.
Market knowledge also he has better. Good. So
Communication skill.
what about negotiation? Candidate A has better negotiation and he can adapt better to any situation. What about that? Why are you
Yeah,
not considering these two factors?
so I was of the opinion because we'll hire, say, candidate A. Couple
Hmm.
of reasons, like I've already mentioned, adaptability. Because in candidate B, he's not he's maybe that rigid that he has set practices which he is
Mm-hmm.
not ready to develop. So in terms of adaptability, because if you put that particular salesperson into a newer market, that person should be adaptable to the
Mm-hmm.
ongoing conditions in the market. And
Mm-hmm.
second thing, the candidate B doesn't have that negotiation skill which A has. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, market knowledge. Once you put the salesperson, he is smart enough. He will try to gather the market knowledge, so that we can give that fair advantage to him.
Mm-hmm.
And considering the track records of sales, if that person is very good in negotiation and adaptable, I'm
Okay.
sure that candidate A will achieve that number of sales also. So I'll
Okay.
go with candidate A.
Good points actually. So for our FMCG company, if I say that the products have a particular fixed price, so how much is negotiation gonna affect our salesmen and our products? For this particular situation, for the FMCG company, how much is negotiation gonna be a X factor?
Negotiation will come into picture while talking to the distributors and the suppliers.
Yes.
There they can play a major role, because ultimately you want to, because we want to capitalize on supply chain so that our products can get driven into the required locations
Yeah.
at a
So
good
that
number of
factor will
margin.
be coming in with the communication skills as well. Negotiation would be for the prices and the
Yes.
deciding on the price factor, and even including the offers. You can, if you see the opportunity, you can give better offers and all. So every
Yeah.
salesman is also given a margin of the discounts that they can provide to someone. Like you can give a particular person this much discount if you think it's a better deal. You can give a particular person this much discount if it's a better deal, like that. So in our particular case, negotiation is not that much useful, because how much can you negotiate uh, in an FMCG product? It's just situation based. I am just creating a situation. Again, there are no no wrong answers. Don't take me wrong. I'm just creating a situation over here, and yeah, based on that. So based on the responses, I can take this that you all understand this kind of graph very well, and I would like to suggest that you can practice more kinds of graphs, more kinds of data. You can even search for more case studies. There are a lot of free stuff available on the internet, and it will help you prepare well for your interview.
Ritesh, before we proceed,
Yeah, sure.
what do you call to this type of graph? As like the earlier slide was a bar graph,
Yeah,
and what are these
earlier one
graphs?
was the bar graph. These are radar graphs.
Okay, radar.
These
Okay,
are these are graphs which are used for such type of questions only, where the particular key pointers are not much relatable. Like they are too distinguished from each other. That's why we are using this graph. Earlier we are just representing sales, so we
yeah.
are using the bar graph. This time we are using 5 attributes of a person, which are not too much relatable. That's why we are using this graph.
Thanks a lot, Ritesh. That was a great case study, and it really had a lot of good questions that we could delve into. And as he said, there were wrong answers. So, like, you can really broaden your mindset on what you can think about. Let's say he took up FMCG; it could be any other sector, and based on that, you need to understand how well you can understand the market and understand what all factors are going to impact. The sales performance of a particular company. So yeah, so like the first, as you mentioned, the first part of our presentation was to understand the business side of data analysis. That is not just focusing on you like coding or doing analysis on tools, but to basically have the general understanding of the business before we proceed with data analysis in general. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an example, a case study, and so we have a data, dummy data, and then we're trying to understand how we can first of all clean the data, make sure that it is ready for analysis. And once we have that, then we take that data and we try to generate insights from it and try to answer some questions about that particular problem statement. So let me try to share my screen. Okay, so I'll just start with this first. So this is an example of a football league. So I'm taking an example of a football league. It's a Spanish football league, and it has various teams. And each team, we have data about the position of each team in the league. We have the number of goals scored. We have the debut year and certain other variables that we have in our data. So I'll just show you the data once. So this is like the date. This is how the date looks like. So we have the position of the team, like what the rank of the team is in that particular league. Then we have the number of seasons they've played. We can see the points they've accrued. We have the games played, games won, games drawn, games lost, and then of course we have the number of times they won the champion leagues. And then we have the debut, like which year each team debut. So you'll see that some of the years are in absolute numbers and some are in ranges. So, and then of course we have the best position. So now by looking at the data, what is the first thing we have to do is we have to try to clean the data and make sure that it is ready for analysis. So by looking at the data, what is this few things that you can see that we can do to clean the data to make it better for analysis? Any particular column, any variable that you think is doesn't have the values that it should have, like a data should have. Yeah, so you'll observe that a lot of the columns after K, they have a lot of dashes in their rows. Now, the dashes, if you actually enter it, if you actually analyze the data using these, it will not be able to consider this as a particular set category type. So it will assume this as a value as well, and that could impact our analysis. So since these are empty, we need to, the first thing we need to do is we need to replace them with zeros since they are not impacting or not going to impact the our analysis. So I'll just show you what we do here. So the first thing that now I'm taking an example of Python notebook. So Python is one of the few tools that we use to do data analysis and visualization. And so this is an example of a platform, the Python notebook. And so what we've done is that we're first importing a few Python libraries. So what these libraries are basically is that these are used for data manipulation and visualization. Like for example, a few of these, as you can see, they are mostly cosmetic libraries like warnings, OS. These are not important for us. But the ones that are important are pandas and numpy. These are two libraries that we use for data manipulation. And then matplotlib is one such library that we use for data visualization. So we'll come to that as we go forward. So the first thing that we had in our mind was that we had to remove any such missing values or any dashes from the data. So you'll see that this is, we read the data using the pandas library. There's a function called read CSV. So using that, we read the data set, and by using the head function, we are able to generate the first few 5 observations of the data. So this gives you an idea of how the data looks like. And then based on that, you can start with the next steps, like what is the next step that you want to do. So as we saw in the whole data, you can see that here you're not able to see it, but in the data you saw that there were dashes. So that is the next step that we're going to do. But before we do that, let's try to understand how many observations there are, what kind of variables do we have. So we do an info function here. And now in this, what we do is that it gives you the columns, it gives you the number of number of non-empty values that it has, and the type of variable that we have. So you'll see that broadly we have variables like int64. So int64 basically means that these are numeric values. These are going to have numeric values. And object basically means that it is a string or a character variable, like it could be a text variable, like team, or we have points, games played, etc. So this gives you an idea of how many variables there are and what are the variables that we can work with. So next we come to the step that we wanted to do. That is, we need to get rid of the dashes from the observations. You'll see that here we are using a replace function. So it's simply saying that any dashes in the values, just replace it with the 0. And when you do that, you'll see that now all the dashes that they were, they're now converted into zeros. Now, what is this going to do basically is that now when we're trying to do any analysis, do a mean or a simple summary of the data, you'll see that these are not going to impact the data. But if we had not cleaned the data and just run the analysis on this unclean data, this would have caused impacted analysis, and we won't be able to generate accurate results. So any doubt here, like any questions on this part, like what we're doing with the data cleaning part? Okay, that's great. And please let me know if you have any questions. So I'm not trying to delve into Python coding as such, because I want to keep this as basic as possible in the first session. But I just wanted to show how we can enable these tools to make our data analysis more easier. So this was one such step we did. Now, next is that we're just simply trying to understand what each variable is like, and what are the different values they have. So like best position is one such variable we saw. If you look at the data, you'll see that there's a best position. And now we have already defined what this best position is. So if you'll notice, so best position we've defined here is the best position of the team. Like what was the best position that the team had across all seasons that they played. So we see that there are all these values, but we see that there, like we can see a lot of ones, we can see twos, but we want to know how many ones there are, how many twos, threes, like what are the frequency distribution of each value. So for doing that, we want to do a frequency distribution. So we'll do a value counts. This is going to basically take each value and we'll count the number of observations in the data. So you see that 1 is coming 9 times, 4 is coming 6 times, and so on. So this is one such analysis we can do to try to understand the number of observations of each data. So what we can see, the observations we can see is that the output above shows the best position and its distribution. And you can see clearly the top position is position 1 with count of 9. So you see that it's showing it in a descending order. So you see that the top position is position 1. Now, moving forward, we can do a simple bar graph analysis. So this is a little difficult to like understand, and visualization is much better to present the data. So to do that, we will use a simple bar chart. So what we did was we took the best position and we generated the bar graph for each value. So here is clearly visible that the bar for 1 is the highest, and hence the best position, number 1 is the highest, the topmost position. So this is now clear to us. And similarly, like we did for this variable, we can do it for other variables. Like we can try to understand, for example, the goals for or the goals against. So we can just all those values that are categorical in nature, we can try to understand their frequency distribution, that what each observation is coming how many times. Now, the next thing we see is that some of the years you see are in ranges and some are in normal year format. So now we need to basically find out that which team has debuted between 1930 to 80. Let's say we want to specify. Now, if we'll do a simple filter on Excel, we can do that as well. Or what we can do is we can run a simple Python code. And what this is basically doing is that it's first converting the entire data set into a string type. And then by using a simple trimming function, it's trying to find out how many years are coming between 1930 and 1980. And by doing that, we see that these are all the teams that debuted between the years 1930 and 1980. So this will help you trim through the data and find out set number of observations that you need for your analysis. Now,
At your end.
okay, so now what we want to do is that we need to find out what are the top 5 teams in terms of points. So we need to filter out that the top 5 teams that we need to find out, and we need to find out in terms of points variable. So now we can do that for different variables as well. We can, like, let's say find out the top 5 teams in terms of let's say the best position or any other variable. But let's say we do it in terms of points, because that is the most variable that makes sense to find out the top 5 teams. So what we do here is that we simply, first of all, take the data set and we sort it in terms of points, as you can see. And then what we do is that we do a simple sort values. And now what it's going to do is that all the top 5 teams with the highest points are going to come in the start of the data. And then we just simply do a head, which is going to give you the top 5 observations. And we just mentioned 5 here, so that it tells you that you need only 5 observations. And now we can see that these are the 5 teams: Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, Valencia, and Athletic Bilbao, which are the 5 teams with the highest points. The highest being 4,385 and the lowest being 3,368. So this is another way we can actually see or analyze that which team is doing the best in terms of points and which team is not. So this is another type of analysis that we can do. Now, I think I'll just before going any forward, because I think I'll try to gauge the understanding of the team, see if they're able to understand before I move to the next case study. So any questions here or anything that you want to understand?
So, Ishrat, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
How convenient it is to use this as in the the one which there on the screen, on the simply using that descending to ascending function in the Excel
Okay.
sheet to understand, rather than using these functionalities, which is slightly
Right.
complicated. At least for me, it is complicated
Yeah.
since I'm not help from that background.
Correct.
So
Correct. Yeah.
simply using that descending to ascending will give you the
Yes.
simple positions. So
Yeah.
how
Sure.
convenient it is to use this than over to that.
Right. So you correctly mentioned. So as I mentioned earlier as well, that some of these things can be done clearly in Excel. Like I mentioned that one of the cases where I'm trying to find out WA between 30 to 80. So here, what I'm trying to do is that since some of the variables are like in ranges and some are in normal values, so when you do a filter option, you'll have to manually select those some of these values. Like for example, if we'll go to Excel, I'll just show you in Excel as well. So let's say I want to find out the only the years between 30 to 80. So let's say I apply a filter and I'll see all these values, right? So now what I'll do is have to manually select these and see, okay, which of these are coming. So this is going to be a little tiring or tedious. But here what we're doing is simply it's filtering out the values in these 3 lines of code. So in this way, it'll be a little easier. Let's say that if the values were not in such a way, like they were in simple years format, then it would have been easier in Excel as well, because I believe that Excel has much has some functionalities which may be better in case of Excel and than in Python. But we can actually use any of the tools as it is for our convenience, based on what we're trying to analyze. So like in this example, or like for example in top 5 teams, right? This could have been done in Excel as well, right? But I'm just trying to give you an example of how this is done in Python. But we could just simply do a filter, and or we could sort the values in Excel and see which are the top 5 teams. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So let me just show you another case study. Let me go to another one. Okay, so like the first case we saw, that was an example of a football team. We had some variables. So we first thing we did was we cleaned the data. We tried to get rid of any missing values, and then we moved and did some basic frequency distribution, bar graph analysis to see to understand generate insights from the data. Another such example is this. So what this data is all about is that it's basically a travel insurance. So like these are various agencies data that we have and which provide the travel insurance, and this is what the data looks like. So if you see that we have the agency name, then we have the agency type, whether it is a travel agency, whether it is airlines. Then we have the distribution, whether they provide online or offline distribution channels. Then we have the product name. So these are the different types of products that the insurance company offers. It's a comprehensive plan. Is it a rental vehicle insurance? It's a basic plan. And then the claim variable is what is interesting here, because this is showing whether the claim was done or not. So it's a simple no or yes. And then we have the duration of the plan taken, then the destination and net sales commission made, and then the gender of the particular person who's taken the plan and the age. So these are some of the behavioral variables that we have, and we try to understand, see what we can do with the data. So first, of course, we just imported a few libraries that we need in Python, and we read the data, and we were able to generate the first 5 observations to see what it looks like. So we can see the data here, and so you'll see that if you look at the data from here, so we see that there are some zeros in the value, but essentially we don't see any missing values. There are some zeros, but there are no missing values as such. So we can actually check that. So we don't have to manually like browse through the data and see whether they're missing values or not. So we can just simply run this info function. So what this does is that it tells you that what are the total entries, like what are the total rows and columns. And for each column, what are the non-null or non-empty values. So if you see that there's a difference between the actual entries and the non-empty values, which means that those values have, or those columns have missing values, right? So we look at this, we can see that if you look at the gender column, we see that the gender column has some missing values, in the gender column, and but since they're categorical variables, there's possibility that they may have some missing values. So let's see what we can do with that in the next steps. So the first thing we did was that we took the categorical variable, which is like agency type, distribution channel, product name. So these are all variables which have only 2 or 3 values, right? For example, agency, there's set number of agencies. Then agency type is only 2 types of agency type. We have, as you can see here, that there's travel agency or airlines. And similarly, so we're just able to find out that what are the categorical variables and what are their respective distribution. So let's say we take the example of agency, and we find out that what are the different values of agencies and how many observations do we have of that. This we did in the previous case. We did it here as well. And we see that there's an agency called EPX, and it has these many values. Then we have CWT and so on. So now let's try to do that in a better way, like we did there. So instead of using this, we use a simple bar graph. And here we can easily see that EPX is the like the agency which has the highest count in the data. So we have the highest number of data with the EPX, and just above that we have CWD and C2D. So these are some of the agencies. And this is another case. So like what we've done here is that we've taken the value count of this agency variable, and here we've just taken that in a more of a standardized way. So we've just, instead of taking the count in these values, we have converted them to percentage. So what we're doing is that what is the percentage of distribution of a particular agency in terms of total observations. So that is what we're doing here. So we use this normalize is equal to true. So this, instead of providing you the total count, it gives you the percentage. So it's easier to understand. So we can see APX is more than 60% of the entire population. So now this is another analysis that we have done here. So it just shows you that for each categorical variable, what is the frequency distribution. So for agency type, you can see there's travel agency and airlines. These are the 2 types, and more of travel agency we can see is there. And same goes for distribution channel. There are more online cases than offline cases. And if you look at the gender distribution, they're more or less alike. And if you look at claim, you'll see that most of the people have not claimed anything from the insurance plan, and only a few percentage have actually claimed. So this is another analysis that we can do here. So I think the question I think I'll ask you here is that for which of these is the most and least popular insurance product among the customers? So like looking at this data, like let's just try to, yeah. So you'll see that if I go to the data again, you see that we have the following products. We have comprehensive plan, rental vehicle insurance. So these are all the various plans, right? So what will we do to understand like which plan is the most popular amongst this? Like we did it for these, right? How will we do it for the variable which is product name? So I'm not asking how we're doing it. I'm just trying to understand what will you do? What's the logic behind finding out whether what's the top product amongst all of these that we have. So let's say I filter this, I'm able to see which of these are the top. So these are all the various plans. There are a lot of plans, as you can see, but we need to find out the top ones. So what way we will use? Is frequency distribution one way we can do that?
Sir, could you repeat the question once again, please?
Yeah, sure. So I'm asking that, so like we did it for agency type and a few other variables, we did a frequency distribution. So by doing a frequency distribution, will we be able to find out for all these products that we have, like comprehensive plan, rental vehicle insurance, which of these is the most popular out of the ones that we have?
Maybe the ones who has positive sales.
Okay.
And depends on the claims. As if there is no claim, how will you understand that's a the number of claims and the positive sales?
Got it. Yeah, that is a good way actually. that we're doing a cross between the product name and the claims. So for each for particular product, how many claims were made. So we saw that in the distribution that the claims in general are quite less, right? But to make it more elaborate, we can try to find out that for a particular product, how many claims were done. So how many claims were done and what was the yes and no distribution, right? So this is one way we can do. So this was a very simple example, but we can broaden the use of bar graphs by doing a cross between two variables. So that helps you basically better understand, as you said. So claims is one good variable that we can do. Like gender distribution, we can just do a cross between gender and product. See that for each product, what is the gender distribution? Like how many, which gender is using which plan. So which is more popular among the males, which is more popular among females. So that's another analysis that we can do. And also the age distribution. We can try to convert these age into buckets. Let's say that we can convert them to senior citizens, we can convert them into young generation, and then based on that we find out which plan is more popular amongst the age distribution. So this is one way, various ways in which we can various permutation and combinations in which we can do this kind of analysis. This is just a simple way. And now we can do this on Python. We can do this on Excel as well. Both ways are great, and based on your convenience, based on your expertise, you can use these. So now not delve that much into the technicalities, but I just wanted to make sure that we understand the logic behind analyzing the data. And we could be given any situation like Ritesh mentioned in his case study. He showed a bar graph. He showed some situations, and based on that, we have to understand. So we can delve into the data and see that what we can do to understand that better. So like another example here is net sales. So this is another way we can try to find out at which plan is doing the most sales. And those that are not doing most sales, is it because of the claims? Is it because of, let's say, it doesn't have much response from younger generation? So maybe we should focus more on a particular category of consumers. So these are various ways in which we can analyze. So I think it'll be a great exercise for everyone to actually, look at the data, try to understand all possible ways in which we analyze the data, and yeah, just question more. So yeah, I think that is all about my presentation. Anything you want to add, Ritesh, or any questions from anyone from the team?
Sir, we have some questions in the chat box.
Okay, let me just open
Allow
that.
me to read it for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
so first question is from Anapurni. The question is, what are the common data analytics tools or programming languages?
Okay, that's a very good question, Anpurna. So as I mentioned that one of the most widely used tools is Excel. So that was the first that came, right? So Excel is the easiest way, like you can do some basic analysis, and now actually it has become more advanced. They've added more functions, and it is made more easier for us to do analysis on Excel as it was before. And the other one, of course, as I mentioned, was is Python. So it's very user friendly and it's open source. So you don't need to buy a plan for that. You can just simply use these open source networks, open source platforms, and you can practice how to use Python to do basic analysis and visualization. Like as I showed, this was just a uh, simple sneak peek into what we can do with Python, but there are much better ways in which we can use Python. We can even actually go even further to analyze the data and try to predict values as well. But I think actually we should not go there. So Excel and Python are two, I think, most better for data analysis. And of course, what you can delve into visualization tools like Tableau. So this is another tool that you can use primarily for visualizing the data to create the graphs like the one Ritesh showed, radar graphs, and there are a lot of other graphs we can use to visualize the data better. So yeah, you should go for that if
Thank you,
that is
sir.
something that you.
For
No issues.
coding wise, you can also consider SAS, SAS, not SAAS, SAS, and SAS's competitor is R. So these two are code-based analytical platforms, and you can, so the difference in between these particular platforms comes when you have a lot of data. So Excel cannot handle like 2 million rows of data. It has a limit of around 1.8 million something, and we have handled around 13 million rows with 183 or more columns. So if you can just guess the size of that particular data, you will need some coding coding to be done for that particular analysis because it's huge. 13 million records are too much.
I'll read it out for you. Another question, which is from Ritesh. What are the common problems that data analysts encounter during analysis?
Okay, good question. So the most common problem that I'll say is the, the data itself, because many times what happens is for data analysis, if you're doing a big project, you will be getting data from various sources. You will be having data from like 4 to 5 sources, and those sources won't match their data consistency. Some source will handle the data in their own way, and some will handle the in their own way. And using those 5 sources, you have to create one big database which you can use for your particular analysis. So you'll have to do a lot of cleaning, data cleaning, like Ishrat showed in his data that there were some empty spaces which will break your model. If you have a particular model developed and you have to run it based on some data, you have to clean the data a lot. And because of the different sources, this becomes the most common problem for any data analyst.
I hope that answers your question, Ritesh. Thank you, Ritesh, for answering. We can take another question, which is from Pratibha. What are the various steps involved in any analytics projects?
That's a good question. What are the various stages that come in data analytics projects, right? That's the question. So as we mentioned here, like the first thing that comes into a point is to understand what are the various points that we have to look into, right? So as we mentioned here in this case, there's a business side that we have to take into consideration, and there's the side where we have to start working on based on that business understanding. We move forward with the analysis part. So first, you have to understand. Let's say we take an example of the FMCG, right? So the first thing that we do is that we find out what are the various points that we need to consider, like the sales, for example, right? We have to understand how to increase our sales. So what are the various things, ways in which we can do that? So then we have to focus on finding out the data, right? We have to find the correct data. So and then once we have the data, we have to we have to clean it, we have to treat it in such a way that we can analyze it better. And then once that part of finding the right questions, then find the data, and then after that comes the part where you start with the analysis, where you starts with something basic like understanding the variables, and then you move forward with trying to create a model of some kind to try to predict the values that you need. So that I think is a later stage of model building. So majorly that is what comes into data analytics projects in general. So anything you want to add, Ritesh?
Yeah, I think after the model building and everything, you'll just have the output files, and you find out some insights based on that particular output and give the deliverables to your client. So in our case, it's an FMCG company. Will analyze the data and will have some deliverables, some particular strong insights that yeah, you have to send your salesman to this particular area, and that will increase your sales. Good, this is your deliverable.
Thank you, Ishrat and Ritesh.
How do you handle the missing values in the data while doing the analysis?
Okay, I'll take this one. So for any particular variable, if there are missing values, you'll have to decide based on the business needs. First of all, if that particular variable is needed for us or not. If it's a redundant variable, then we don't need it. Then we'll remove it by like from the data itself. But if we need it, then we have to do some particular uh, we have to take some particular steps to fill those values. For Ishrat's case, it could be zero. Like if someone has won the championship, then there will be a number. If someone hasn't won the championship, then we can put it zero. Very simple. But if it's not that simple, then we'll have to do some extrapolation based on the data that we have available to us, or some other methods should be applied based on the business rules that the client provides us. Based on that, and then we'll
Okay,
fill the data, and then we'll do the analysis on that particular data set.
understood. Understood. Ritesh. Thanks for answering that.
So another thing I want to add, right, when he said about how to fill the missing values. So one he definitely said was that based on the business needs, whether we need it or not, or whether if you have to fill it with the values, what kind of variable it is. So like in the first case, we saw that it was simply dashes, right? So dashes means that the values are missing. So we can't fill it with anything because if we do fill it with anything, that could impact the overall the insights that the data provides. So
Yeah.
what usually happens is, let's say that we have a data of scores or points. Let's say that there were missing values and points in this case. This variable points. Let's say we had some missing values here. So the first thing that we have to find out when imputing the values is that whether there are any values that are extreme in this case. Let's say that the average is, let's say out of all these values, these are all in 4,000s, 2,000. Let's say there's a value which is in 10,000 or even in lakhs, right? So that would clearly be an extreme value. So if we fill it out with a mean, let's say mean of the entire observation, that could impact the entire observation or the data, right? So we can't fill it with mean. So in that case, we'll have to look for some other arithmetic function to fill it out with. We can just simply do a zero. That wouldn't be right. But instead, we have to look at the case, whether the outliers or extreme values present. We can't use mean. Otherwise, mean is a good way in which we can impute. Just fill out the values with average of the entire observations. So yeah, this is another thing I wanted to add.
Ishrat, do you have anything left for this?
Yeah, I think I think I've covered both the case studies. I think even though there's a lot, I think we can cover. But for now, I think for this session, I think we've covered everything we had to.